To me, goodbyes are weird. It's like you're telling someone that you're saying goodbye to that whatever comes after, you're not going to need them for. And I wasn't ready to say that to my little brother. So I moved to Chicago. Keeps coming up. I moved to Chicago when I was 21. My brother is much younger than I. I just needed to spread my wings and kind of see the world out there. I didn't know anybody, just kind of wanted to go for it. There were many trips from the East Coast out to the Midwest and back, and I could tell you a story about every single one of them. There was the time that I got a flat tire on the way back to the East Coast in Indiana and drove 7,000 miles on a donut. There was another time that I drove from Chicago to Virginia to meet my then-girlfriend's parents. I just worked a double, got on the road at midnight, and survived the whole 14-hour trip straight through with doing nothing else but stopping for gas. I survived on Red Bull and truck stop caffeine pills. And I made it to Virginia. Her mom opened the door. I shook her hand, threw up on the living room floor, and then laid downstairs in a bedroom just shaking like a trauma victim for a while because of those caffeine pills. But probably the most significant trip was the one that I took that got me out there. My mom and dad drove the U-Haul up, and I took that opportunity to drive with my brother in my car. And I had told myself that I was going to be a great older brother to him when he was in high school. I mean, in general, but in high school, I was like, I'm going to kill it for him. I'm going to tell him everything that I thought I knew about girls. I was going to help him get out of trouble with mom and dad. I was going to buy him beer when he was old enough, which I think was like 16, I was going to say. But I didn't. I wasn't there for it. So anyway, he and I loaded the car up, and we drove, and we tried to cram in a lifetime's worth of brotherly love and experiences in that 14-hour car ride. Really, it was 10 hours because the kid fell asleep by Harrisburg for a while and just kind of left me thinking about life and everything. I woke him up by driving onto that warning track and feigning a terrible car accident, and he was awake straight way through all the way for the rest of the ride. Griffin and I, we talked about everything on the trip. We talked about, his girlfriend at the time. He was in 8th grade. Of course he has a girlfriend. We talked about, how he could avoid mom's wrath. We did a bracket of every superhero we could think of and, who would win. Spiderman, of course. But there was some important things that we didn't talk about. For example, I didn't tell him I'm just going to miss him. He didn't. I didn't tell him that I was sorry that I was leaving him. He didn't ask, if I was planning on coming back. None of that. And that was the stuff that I really would have liked to talk about. Say that stuff that brothers need to say, but just really aren't good at saying that stuff. We didn't have those conversations. We pull into Chicago 14 hours later, and we pull into what would be my neighborhood, and my heart is just filled with the pregnant pause of all the things that I wanted to say to him. I was hoping that he would bring it up, but I know I should have. I was the older brother. I was just terrified to say all these things. I was terrified that he was going to be mad at me. That in his life he was factoring in a future without a brother, all this stuff, And we pull up to the neighborhood, and I wanted to say all these things, and instead he said it for me. I put the car in park, and he just looks at me and he goes, "I love you, bro. You're going to kill it out here." And that was enough. And with his permission, I did kill it out in Chicago. And then I came home. I came home some years later. In fact, I came home in time for him to graduate. And years after that, I was actually the best man at his wedding. And next year, he's going to be the best man at mine. I guess goodbyes, they don't have to be forever. Thank you.